Sangaitla, everyone. Good evening, good evening, good evening. It's so great to see all of you here with us tonight for our 10th annual Smokehouse Gala, our second time virtually gala-ing together. We're so happy to be able to spend some time with all of you tonight to celebrate some incredible awardees, to spend some time with one another. This pandemic has just been going on for too long. I'm here with Ayu Kasatak, our Vice President at First Alaskans Institute, and we're just really happy to spend time with you and cannot wait for the rest of the evening to unfold. Ayu, you want to share any words of welcome?
Yeah, just to say, Uvlulotok. So good to be here with all of you. We've been looking forward to this evening for months and months and months. And while we wish we were together in person, taking care of and protecting our community is the most important. So we're very pleased to be here with all of you and also really honored that we get to be in your homes with your families tuned in, and just really hope that you're healthy, safe, and well.
Yes, sheesh, Hawa. That's the orders of the day, right? Keep everyone safe and healthy through this pandemic till we can be together again. And hopefully that will be next November for our 11th annual Smokehouse Gala. So welcome everyone. And I'll invite Uyurukjak to come on.
Hi, this is going to be my part. We're going to do a land acknowledgement to acknowledge our land that we're on. I'm Uyurukjak from Updegazok, and I'm calling in from Degayakok, also known as Anchorage. For 10,000 years plus, Alaska has been and always will be a native place. We want to acknowledge the First Peoples who have always stewarded the lands that we reside on. Our First Alaskans Institute office is on the unceded traditional lands of the Dena'ina people, whose traditional name for this place is Degayakok, which also means mouth of the Needlefish Creek. We've learned needlefish is another word for ooligan. The Dena'ina people allow us to do our work here, and we want to lift them up and acknowledge their continued care for these lands. We also want to acknowledge we are in the unceded virtual space, which allows us to be statewide and beyond. And coming up now, we're going to show a beautiful blessing as we begin our evening. Guyana.
I'm on the rock at last, at last. I'm on the rock at last. My feet have found a resting place. I'm on the rock at last. Inilak nga uyak mong pakma. Inilak nga uyak mong. Lisihat ka pakituk menwak sabing mi. Inilak nga uyak mong. Take away, applaud you all.
So beautiful. Oh my goodness. That just sounds like home. That was one of our team members, Mishak, and her beautiful mama. They jumped right in and offered that blessing during our Elders and Youth Conference just a few weeks ago. Really so beautiful to call them back into our space, to start our time together in a good way. And now that we have acknowledged the First Peoples of the land that we're on in this unceded space, as well as offered a blessing for our time together, we're ready to introduce ourselves so you know who we are as well. Ayuranga, onglatlak milranga, apakatalalak lupanya kasatak, ang yukakdag lusadatun kudkok herdman, kitnukaka katuchok lutalaluk, panika kanigluk, nukaklika inuatlurak. I'm Ayu Kasatak. I come from Ungalatlek, also known as Yunlakleet. My grandparents are Stanton and Irene Kitchtag. I'm the daughter of Doug and Vernita Herdman, and I've got 4 amazing kiddos. And we live and work and learn on the lands of the Dena'ina here in Degayakok. Dagune?
Sheesh, how I'm Lagunai Medicine Crow. I am Tlingit and Haida. I come from Qijuan, which is where I am zooming in from, in the heart of Tlingit Ani, our Tlingit homelands. I come from Haida Gwaii, Hikta Hunlai. Some know it today as Heidelberg, and of course here at home in Cake. The Mouth of the Dawn people, or as we're also known, the village that never sleeps. I heard a beautiful story yesterday about that from my one of my clan elders, Ruth Demert Canuck, and she talked about the way that our ancestors chose this place, and you could see the sun come up and you could see the sun rise. And so that is one of the reasons that we have that name, or we're known as the village that never sleeps. I am on my Tlingit side, I am Raven Kachadi, freshwater Marksakai salmon. And on my Haida side, I am Eagle Chichkitne. We are the hummingbird people. And I'm so honored to be able to work for First Alaskans Institute and with the team that we have and with our trustees. And that's what this gala means to all of us, is an opportunity to celebrate with all of you about the contributions of our people. So Ayu and I are here introducing ourselves. You'll get to meet all the other folks that are part of the event soon. But once again, thank you so much for joining us.
I can attest to Qijuan being the village that never sleeps. I've been there for the sunset and the sunrise in the same time period, so I can attest it is true. As we ease into our 10th anniversary of our Howard Rock and Ted Stevens Smokehouse Gala, we want to uplift the language of Eyak. So a couple of years ago, we started a new tradition of uplifting one of our beautiful Indigenous languages every year. And at the end of Elders and Youth Conference last year, the language of Eyak was chosen for 2021. And so that's a language that we've been uplifting and reflecting throughout this entire year. And so we have a special treat for you. We're going to show a throwback video from 2013 of one of our beautiful, beautiful dance groups. It's a Tlingit dance group. You may recognize them. They're quite popular, but they are uplifting the Eyak language in the beginning of their performance. And so with no further ado, I'd love to welcome the clip.
There are currently very few people that speak little, if any, Eyak at home. And I just feel that it's important that I should speak it. And I know for many of you, tonight is going to be the first time, and hopefully not the last time, that you're going to hear Eyak in your lifetime. Chakoish aduk ta'eh. T'ilech kachacht alchu. Tachuhu alchu. Awa achta anda lachsha'atl. I just gave you a short introduction of myself, basically the same things I said earlier. And I said, Awa achta anda lachsha'atl. I'd like to thank you all for coming here tonight, and the next song that we're going to do for you is another song that comes from Athabascan people, but this one came from farther up north. It came from, it was brought down to Yakutat by my clan, the K'neh back when they were originally an Otna clan up near the Chitna area. This song is at least 1,000 years old, and we've been doing this since time immemorial. It's called Sanadu.
little Jackson, so tiny. Oh my goodness. Ganoshchi to the Mount St. Elias dancers for allowing us to share that clip again. It's such a beautiful one. And Devlin Anderstrom, who was speaking in the beginning in EAC, is one of our incredible language healers. Some of you may know, fun fact, that he was our youth keynote several years ago for our Elders and Youth Conference. And he gave his entire keynote in the Tlingit language. It was incredibly powerful. I remember just how that energy in the room felt. It was really beautiful. So gunoschish to them for allowing us to share that beautiful clip and start off our gala with some singing and dancing. To continue uplifting our EAC language, we want to also show a very special clip that happened during our Elders and Youth Conference this year, where we invited Garrett and Jake Swenson to help lead our conference participants in how to say and pronounce our Elders and Youth Conference theme.
Me and Jake are going to take you guys through the theme this year. Let's see, got it pulled up right here. So going through it one time all together is Ahnu Dahunyu Ahakia Ishka Katakeshinu.
That's what we're going to get to.
Perfect. So we're going to break this down for you guys and go one by one. And as we do this, I want you guys all to come off mute so we can hear everybody speak it together. So if you wouldn't mind coming off mute, and we'll all give it a chance. I'll start and I'll say the word, and then I want everybody else to give it a try. And I'll break it down before we all go through it. But for the first word, ahnu, you really want to hit that first H and then hold those U's as you're saying it. So ahnu. It's so awesome. I love hearing that.
Good job.
All right, so the next one we have is Dahunyu. So when you see that capital A, it's going to sound more like a traditional U sound, and that capital X is also going to be you're really going to drag that K almost. So it'll be Dahunyu.
And so for the next word, the AXA, you're really gonna like the X in the dahunyu, you're gonna really emphasize that X in the back of your throat. And you're gonna go ahaki, and then you just take a little bit of a breath, almost like that exhale on the ahnu, and you're gonna go ya. Let the rest of that breath out. So ahaki ya. And then the next word is going to be a really short one. And the capital L, you're going to kind of want to put your tongue to the top of your mouth and breathe out real hard. And it's going to be ishta.
All right, this last one gets a little bit longer. The first G is going to be a G that you're going to feel in your throat. It's the almost like a gulping sound. So it'll be, and the two E's also in after Q are going to make an A sound. So using that same L that we did from Ilka. I'll do it one more time and then everybody can do it together.
I love that video so much. It was so amazing in real life during our Elders and Youth Conference to be learning in real time with, I can't even remember how many people were on, a couple hundred people at a minimum were on, and everyone was interacting and being able to, in the act of decolonizing our own mouths, making those sounds and using those muscles in our mouth and our throat, those sounds that our ancestors ancestors made and trying to get it right. You know, we can't always get it right. And we're all from so many diverse, different native cultures and languages. But it's so powerful to be able to be part of that healing process of bringing our languages back to life and breathing life into them. And I still get teary-eyed listening to them and practicing along with them. So I just am so grateful that they jumped in, those two brothers, and just did such a great job with all of us. And I hope with all of you as well. I know the first time that I saw the video, I couldn't help it, but I got sucked in and I was learning and saying it along with everyone again, watching the video. And I bet some of you did the same thing. I wanted to tell you a story about 11 years ago. Well, it was a little more than 11 years ago, no, maybe 12 years ago, when our board of trustees started having the conversation about holding a celebration to lift up the enormous contributions of our Native peoples, to change the narrative from one of, you know, too much deficit and negativity around how people have engaged with and have known or have thought about our Native people in our own homelands, to one that says, we have been here for over 10,000 years and we have stewarded this place with so much love, so much endurance, and so much strength that we need to celebrate this, and we need to help everyone else across the state celebrate it with us. And so that was what birthed what has become the Smokehouse Gala. And this is our 10th year. So we're a decade old now with our gala. And it would not have been possible without all of the many hands, the volunteers, all of the artists and creators, all of the awardees and their families, the Howard Rock family, the Ted Stevens family, all of the sponsors. None of it would have been possible without everyone collectively coming together to hold up that idea, that notion, that principle, and that truth, which is Alaska Native peoples have contributed for thousands of years to the well-being of Alaska. And that's what this gala is about. It's about celebrating our people. It's also about holding up the work that we get to do together at First Alaskans Institute on behalf of our community, and being able to shine a light on some incredible people, our awardees, who have just heart and soul done so much work to lift us up. In the words of Dr. Walter Soboleff, to lift up the face of our people. And so that's what the Smokehouse Gala has really been about. And it came about because our trustees saw that there was a need for spaces like this. And one of the most incredible things that I've been able to witness with the Smokehouse Gala when we were holding it in person is that at first, this idea of wearing your regalia to a quote unquote black tie type of affair, at first there was people who did it, but there was kind of like a, is this okay kind of a moment. And when that first one went off, and I remember there was a table full of women from the Chugach region, and they were all wearing those beautiful, stunning beaded headdresses. And they were all sitting around this table. And it was just so moving to see the beauty of our regalia and the presence of our ancestors in that space. And from then on, it just blossomed. And it's every year, it's one of the most favorite parts, is to be able to see all of our amazing regalia and from all across the state. It's been so incredible, and we can't wait for that to happen again. But it came about because of the vision of our trustees. So I want to invite our board chair, Willie Hensley, to come on camera and join me here and introduce himself along with our trustees. If you all could come on camera as well.
Okay, Kuyan, Uvga Irja Ruka, Kektaur Mingrunga. my name is Willie Hensley. I'm from Kotzebue, and almost an island. I just watched that tremendous documentary that was on nationally about Elmer Goodwin and his family. Showing the rest of the world our way of life, and I thought it was just wonderful. My high school classmate in Tennessee was watching it the same time I was. I couldn't believe it. Anyway, when you talked about the regalia, I just dashed out to the garage to put on my sealskin parkie. I just couldn't resist. It was made by Lucy Inungo from Shishmaref a long, long time ago. I could barely fit in it anymore. But in any case, thank you for joining us for our 10th event. It's hard to believe that it's been that long. It's been so much fun putting it on. The staff has done such a tremendous job over the years, and everyone just has a great time at those events. And I can hardly wait for us to do it in person again one of these days. But I would like to ask each of our directors who are online to say a few words and introduce themselves, starting with Valerie Davidson.
Wiana Willie. Huinga no kagalugo am tlamaganan lu yupiugo am taritlakamiu anaka kuyenakamiok ataka kasau Porter Trude Washington nagmiok. Huinga kekwa nauga linked hide jasna Higgins auga. Hi everyone, my Yupik names are Nukhagala Kanamithlamakanan and my English name is Valerie Davidson. I'm from Mamtaretlak, which you might know as Bethel, and it's a place of many smokehouses or fish camps. And my mother's family is from Guyinok. We're Yupik on my mom's side, and on my dad's side, my dad is originally from Port Orchard, Washington, and they're Gussup, which means they're not Yupik. And I was adopted by the Jackson family from Cake, and they're about maybe 15, maybe 20 years ago. And they're both Slinket and Haida, and they gave me the Haida name Jasnach Higgins, which I'm told means noisy lady. But I tell myself it's only because I have a really good, authentic Native woman's laugh, real good auntie laugh, the kind you can hear all the way at the end of the village where the boardwalk meets the tundra, and or else just all the way down the beach. And so it's so good to see everyone tonight, and just so happy to be here, and Guyana to everyone for all that you do.
Thank you, Val, for your introduction. Sylvia Lang, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sylvia Lang from Cordova. Currently, I'm a guest at the of the Agua Caliente Band of the Cahuilla Indians here in the Coachella Valley, also known as Palm Springs. I came down to have a little vacation and see some family, and tripped and fell, so I'm going to be here for a while. I got my hand and arm in a sling and into the hospital here for surgery in a couple of days. Anyway, heading home for Christmas. That's the good news. So yes, the Smokehouse, I miss it. It really is a joyful time when we get together and put on our best, and just walking through that gala and seeing what everyone's wearing, and nobody can wipe the smile off their face. It's like at the end of the evening, my cheeks hurt. And next year we will be there. And but you know what, honestly, I've been catching as much as I can here that the crew has put together, and these have been really terrific videos, and this whole week has been full of wonderful little vignettes of terrific stuff. And I think I won a couple of good things at the auction, so I'm excited about that. All righty, well, on with the show, and Ganoshish.
Thank you, and we hope your surgery goes well and
Thanks.
heal well. Thank you. We have Dr. Sven Hawkinson. We don't get a chance to give our titles out that much, but Dr. Sven Hawkinson, introduce yourself.
Chimai Willie. Chimai Hui Gaslok I Sven Hawkinson mute. Nunach mute. Hi, my name is Sven Hawkinson. I'm originally from the village of Old Harbor on Kodiak Island. I'm currently on the lands of the Coast Salish people in Seattle, Washington, where I now reside where I now work and reside at the University of Washington. But again, just to reiterate what Sylvia Lang said, and watching the videos and then watching what First Alaskans and the staff have been doing to lift up our people is really powerful. And the gala is one of those moments where we come together to celebrate who we are as not only as Indigenous peoples, but as people thriving today across Alaska. And that's so beautiful to see that, but also see everybody wearing the regalia and also just being amazing. And I look forward to hopefully next year when we can meet in person and see each other in person and do our AFN shuffle of step, step, hug again, but also just to get together and celebrate and lift not only the artisans who donated their work, but also all the other amazing things that are happening across our state within our communities. Again, I just want to say Koyanisinak and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Sven, for that. And I just really admire what you all have done, you and your cohorts have done in rejuvenating the spirit and the culture of the Sugpiaq people out there, on the island. It just, I just remember for the first time watching your video about Refuge Rock, which I had never heard of in my entire life, and what took place there during the Russian era. So thank you for that, for your work on that. We have directors who are unfortunately unable to be with us this evening. And one is Sam Kido Tlingit, originally from Petersburg. He's a vice chair. Also, Aviren, my friend Oliver Levitt, he's unable to be with us tonight from Utqarvik. And also Georgiana Lincoln, who is Koyukon from Rampart and Anchorage. She's also unable to be with us. So they're hardworking directors. We wish them well in these uncertain times. We also have directors who sadly, for all of us, are no longer with us. Morris Thompson is one of our directors. We like to remember. Also, two more, Byron Malat and Al Kukesh, who embody the spirit of their people and all the work that they did, all the many years of service to the native people of Alaska. And I think tonight we have Tony Malat and Sally Kukesh with us this evening. And thank you for joining us and sharing your spouses all these many years of service to our people. Their service will be remembered, and anytime we introduce our directors in the future, they will be remembered and introduced as well.
As the trustees have taken action to formally add Albert Kukesh and Byron Malat as trustees in memoriam, what that means for us as an institute is that we have these powerful ancestors who we will call upon as we continue to do our work and call upon their spirit. And so we wanted to make sure that Tony and Sally and their families, if they were willing, would be able to join us here on camera for a moment so that we could all just express our love for them and our appreciation. So if you're willing to come on camera right now, that would be fantastic. I see Sally and Walter and Elaine. And I want to acknowledge that we also have Frank and Anthony and Tony. There she is. Hi, Tony. So good to see you.
You there? No, you're. Yep. Okay. So I and son Joey and grandson. Anyway, I'm at Joe and Liz's, and we just were having a feast of a deer heart to thank the spirit of the deer, and salmon and rockfish, and so it's one of Byron's favorite meals. And that's it. So thank you, Liz, for and the entire board for doing this, and you know, putting both of them in. Okay.
Goodness, so much, Tony, for being with us.
Love you, Tony. Anthony, everybody.
Oh, hello. Want to thank the trustees, Salaskins, and for this honor on behalf of myself and my children. My son Walter is sitting here with me, and Elaine is on camera. I had invited Jaylene to come on. She's down in Seattle. Just thank you. I was always at home with the kids and taking care of the business, so you know how that goes. But right now, I appreciate this honor, and I know Albert represented to my people too, the Kayukan from up in the interior, and I want to thank Doyon for their support of him and all of the people from all over Alaska and all the way down to he represented people from when you hit the mountains before you got to Selawik, all the way down into Kodiak, South Central, and down into Southeast Alaska, into to Metlakatla. I want to thank you all for honoring him, for remembering him, and just Basi from my language. And what do you want to say? Good.
Gunachish, thank you all for the this honor and allowing me to be here with my mom. I thank you all for all the kind words and everything and your strength that you gave us during a hard time. And Auntie Tony, love and strength to you. Love you very much.
Yeah, love you, Tony. Love you, Byron. To Byron's family as well, and to Morris Thompson's family. I remember Big Boy, when we were growing up, he was always someone we looked up to. They always came home with their rock and roll fashions, Bobby socks, you know, the Hildebrands. They were my heroines, and they had their Bobby socks and rolled up denim jeans, and Big Boy was always there leading them on. And I remember that when I was very young. And to Georgiana and all of you, I mean, all of you, thank you very much. We all appreciate this honor. Thank you.
Yeah, goodness, geez, so much. When the board decided to do this, Willie reached out and spoke with Sally and with Tony to make sure that they, of course, were okay with this. And we just thank the family so much for letting us do this. It's our honor. Really the least that we could do. They were giants as human beings, and now they're going to be giants as ancestors. And our staff just put a small slide together, just one, and we want to use that slide just to take a moment of remembrance and a moment of silence with all of you as we add Byron and Albert as trustees in memoriam to First Alaskans Institute. Could you put the slide up, please, Kudmiku? So much, Anapase, for letting us add them as our continuing guidance in the work that we do at First Alaskans Institute. And so thankful for the family for joining us. It's hard to even talk, and I can't even imagine how you folks feel. I just send you all so much love and gratitude for the lives that they led and what they did for all of us. Did you want to say any last words, Willie, before we transition?
Well, I would just, it's hard. I just think of all the miles we put in together, all those many years, you know, trying to do whatever we could to uplift our people. They were just stalwarts, you know, under all kinds of conditions, all kinds of pressures, you know, and really the absence from home to try to, you know, pursue and improve lives for our people. And it's just wonderful that they're being remembered in this fashion. Thank you.
Lots of miles traveled. Well, we're gonna move on and transition into our next part of our recognition of our staff. And to the family, we love you folks, and for being with us. You're welcome, of course, to stay with us on the Zoom if you'd like, and enjoy the rest of the evening. We've got our wonderful awardees coming up in a little bit as well. So thank you so much for joining us this evening. Ayu?
Sorry, it's hard to speak to. So much love to you, Sally and Tony, Elaine, Frank, Anthony, all of you. You know, at First Alaskans Institute, we really are a family. You've invited us into your homes, and you know, we're lifting you up. As I was listening to that beautiful remembrance of such powerful leaders in our community, I was really struck by how throughout time, our people have always been fierce protectors of our ways of life. Byron, Albert, and Morris exemplified that in their leadership, in the ways that they advocated for us. And it was making me think of this Inupiaq way of knowing that I'm only coming to learn from my mother, called Unipqaq, where it's this understanding that throughout time, there are some who are traveling, and then we catch up and we travel with them for a period of time. And then we continue doing this with our ancestors. And thinking about the incredible example of not only our tremendous leaders who've gone on before us, but the ones still with us, our trustees, and so many incredible leaders within our community. I think one of the absolute best ways that we can honor them and honor this ancestral imperative that we have to fight for our people is to jump in and help carry during this time and prepare our future leaders to do the same. And at First Alaskans, with our team, our staff, I absolutely feel that we do that. You know, our brother Bentham Ohia, our Maori whānau down in Aotearoa, New Zealand, he talks about how something that differentiates Indigenous peoples from any other peoples on earth is that for us, self-care doesn't mean kind of pampering ourselves or removing ourselves to take care. Self-care for Indigenous and Native peoples means calloused hands. That when we have our sleeves rolled up and we're in there and we're doing the hard work, that's when we know we're taking care of ourselves because we're contributing to our community. And I'm very honored to be able to do the kind of work that we do at First Alaskans Institute and to do it alongside really incredible folks with the guidance of our amazing trustees and our staff. And so I want to take a moment to acknowledge our staff. You've already met myself and Lagunai, of course. Uidoch Jack offered the blessing earlier. Kalasait Tla, Amanda Bremner, is Tlingit of Yakutat. She is our Indigenous Advancement Director. You'll get a chance to hear from her a little bit later. Shulukanatanichkak, Melissa Martin, is Sikhbak of Kodiak. She's our Indigenous Operations and Innovations Director. You'll also get to hear from her in a little while as well. Gatgadam Hanaach, Carla Booth is Simshan of Metlakatla. She's our Indigenous Leadership Continuum Director. This is a very small subset of our staff that you're going to get to hear from directly this evening. We also have so many other staff that have really been building those calloused hands leading up to this event and really helping to make it an amazing celebration of our peoples that aren't with us. So we have a slide so you can see their beautiful faces as well. We have, as we're pulling that up, we have Kunmagu, Casey Hobson. She's Inupiaq of Wainwright and Utqiagvik. She's our Indigenous and Governmental Affairs Strategist. She's behind the scenes of our gala workings, helping to make sure everything runs smoothly, as well as Flada Daphna. Angela Gonzalez is Koyakan of Huslia. She's our Indigenous Communications Manager. She's helping to connect with all of you on social media, answering questions, providing additional information and connection points for all of you. So she's also behind the scenes this evening. Other staff that are not with us, but have really worked hard alongside us to help lead to an amazing event, this finale tonight, include Waflagidak, Barbara Blake. She is Haida Tlingit Atna of Heidelberg, Klawak, and Chistachina. She's our Alaska Native Policy Center Director. Sorry. Mishak Merita Kapali. She's Inupiaq of Kayana. She's our Giram and Zo, our Indigenous Leadership Continuum Coordinator. We have Egeragami Hannah Hamilton. She is St. Lawrence Island Yupik of Gamble. Her role here is Ikayuk. You'll actually get a sneak peek with her and her family a little bit later as well. Henahi Olivia Irwin. She is our Indigenous Knowledge Advocate. She is Koyakan and Inupiaq of Nanana. Chuck T. Shawan Jackson Gamble is Tlingit and Haida of Keith Kwan and Shika. We've got Kakudi, Anthony Lindoff, are both Chakti and Kakudi are our Indigenous Stewardship Fellows. Kakudi is Tlingit of Huna. So those are sneak peeks of our beautiful team who work so hard every single day to uplift our people and advocate for us. At this time, I would love to invite both Lagunai and Willie back onto the screen. Lagunai? Yeah,
She's great.
there you are.
The helicopter's still there in the background. I hope it's not too loud, but they're doing important work. We want to take a few minutes of our time to recognize our sponsors for our Smokehouse Gala, our 10th annual Smokehouse Gala. And we couldn't do it without all of the people who donate and contribute and support. And so we want to make sure to say hawa to them. Willie, do you want to start us off?
I will. Let me see if I can pronounce this right. Ahaki, the canoe level. And I think that's Tlingit, isn't it?
That is EAC.
Oh my goodness. I didn't know I was speaking EAC. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we can't do a darn thing without money these days. And we really appreciate those people and those entities that contribute to our event and have been over the years. And the canoe level, I'd like to thank GCI for their contribution.
And Alaska Airlines as well.
Yes. Also, a rather well-known firm, Sonosky Chambers, Saxe, Andresen and Perry, LLP. Guyana, thank you.
And ConocoPhillips.
Yes, Big Oil. What would we have done without Big Oil? Now, oh my goodness. Travel by boat. And we'd like to thank the Matsu Health Foundation for their support.
Oh, and I get to thank Sea Alaska for their support.
Oh my goodness, how did we figure that one out? Francis and David Rose Family Foundation, Gunulchish.
Ocean Conservancy, Gunulchish.
Cook Inlet Tribal Council, Anabasi.
And the University of Alaska Foundation.
Oh my goodness, how can we afford that? Also, a great firm, Landy Bennett Blumstein. Thank you very much.
And Chugach Alaska Corporation. Gunulchish so much for your support.
All right, now the next level is called paddle. It's called Kawusko, maybe.
Kawuska.
All right, close. Cognac, thank you very much. The Sukpiak people of Cognac.
And the White Raven Healing Center, Gunulchish.
Oh my, and thank you, Klian Gunulchish, in memory of Byron Malat.
And I'd like to thank the Southeast Alaska Conservation Council for their support as well.
Anabasi, CNC North Consulting.
And Susan Anderson, Gunulchish for your support.
All right, Klian Amy Fredine.
And Sydney Tarswell, Sydney, Gunulchish.
And Masichu, Sally Rue.
Kogasakang Don Biddison. Those were all of our sponsors for tonight. And well, over the course of our whole Smokehouse Gala event, since we've been going for about a week so far. And it would not have been, in Tlingit we say Gunulchish means thank you, but the way we say it, the way we think about what we're saying when we say thank you in our language, Gunulchish, it would not have been possible without you. And we thank you so much to our sponsors once again. Thank you, Willie. And we'll hand it over to Katkairam Hana'a.
Oh, in Deutschen. And I will add one more sponsor to that list, our elder Dolores Churchill, who is an amazing weaver. She also supported First Alaskans through this event.
And one more, President Chelthia Ish Peterson. I just learned that he has sponsored as well. Gunulchish so much, President Peterson.
Well, Gatgeram Hana'a Duayu, Simsi Anu, Gan Hadadi Pedegu, Will Ukshtamadikdu Watgu, Nigyot Stiwot Zogu. Lu Mgodon Welnitsen. I am Carla Booth. I am Simpsian of the Raven clan, and my family comes from Metlakatla. I live on the lands of the Dena'ina in Dikayakuk, and I am the director for our Indigenous Leadership Continuum at First Alaskans Institute. I have had the honor over the last few years to help host a variety of opportunities for our community, everything from our Elders and Youth Conference to our summer internship program to a variety of fellowships. This year marked the 38th year that the Elders and Youth Conference has been hosted. And this also marked the 17th year that First Alaskans Institute has had the responsibility and honor of coordinating this amazing gathering of our people. And each year when we start the conference, we always start with our warming of the hands. And this portion of our program really sets the tone for how our gathering is going to be and how we are going to be with each other over the 4 days of the conference. And what we'd like to share with you is just a tiny snippet of the many amazing moments that happened during this year's warming of the hands. We have to say a huge Indoikshin and Anabasi to Alfie Price and Anna Clock, who helped host our warming of the hands and really brought us through some very meaningful storytelling segments with some language healers. But with that, can we please show the video of Shigop?
My main focus, and it's endangered. We're losing our fluent speakers faster than we can create them, and so it's not just important. It's crucial. It's an emergency. And I also really like that we are calling ourselves language healers. We are here to introduce language healers to you today. And I really appreciate that because our language is very much alive. Our language is tied to our lands, and it sure needs some loving right now. But the beautiful part of that is the more work we do healing our languages, the more healing we receive. And I can attest to that personally. I have gained so much healing over the few years that I've been focusing on reclaiming some Aya.
Deutschen Shigop for that valuable message. As I listen to his words, I'm reminded of my Auntie Sarah Booth, who was a fluent speaker of Somaliach in the community of Metlakatla. We lost her during the pandemic times, and I know that her family is missing her, as well as her students that learned from her on a regular basis. So our heart goes out to our statewide community that has lost our language healers over the duration of this pandemic and beyond. Shigop did a very good job of underlining the importance and the responsibility that we have of continuing on our languages. Even though our language teachers have passed on, the work still needs to be done. Our languages will still continue on because of our commitment. I'm grateful for the energy and the excitement that my boys have for language. I'll be honest, we don't practice every day, but the energy and the ability that they have to retain the knowledge when we engage in lessons is amazing, and we have to harness that energy and continue to learn. I was driving in the car with my 8-year-old, Gosnot Laholi, Jeffrey Mark, and I did something and he said, thank you. And I said, you know, Jeffrey, instead of saying thank you, you could say Deutschen, Anabasi, Koyana, you know, all these different thank yous. And he said, oh, is that because people are used to hearing English? So they need to stop getting used to hearing English? I said, yes, that's it. That's it. We need to not shy away from speaking our languages in public. We need to embrace it. When you go into a room, it's okay to identify and introduce yourself with your indigenous name. It's okay that people have to learn how to say your name and they might stumble, but that's okay. That's just part of our learning process. So in Deutschism, again, to all of our language healers and to our communities that are committed to perpetuating our languages. All of us are needed in this fight to continue our languages. Even if you utter a hello or a thank you or a goodbye, that's good, that counts, and that helps stoke the fire for our languages. Waiwa, are you?
Or in Iyak, we'd say awa ata. Awa ata. Thank you. What a beautiful story. It really reminded me of that quote from Yupik elder Peter Jacobs of Mamteritlok, when he would share that, you know, we were coming into a time where our elders were waking up to realize that so much of what we had been taught about ourselves were lies. And as we're in this collective awakening, our children are waking up too. And he would ask, our children are waking up and they're waking up hungry. What are we going to feed them? So beautiful to hear of that story and to be reminded of how hungry our kids are for our ways of life. There are so many aspects of our ways of life that are so important to protect, to awaken, to reclaim, and to live. And I just absolutely love that. And our language is definitely a really important aspect of all of that. In that same vein, I want to uplift another sponsor who has pledged during this event, the Siri Foundation. You know, speaking of organizations that uplift our ways of life, you know, they've been a strong supporter, not only of First Alaskans Institute and the work that we have done, but really in the awakening efforts across our state and beyond. So, to the Siri Foundation for your support as well. You know, this year, INCSA turns 50. It's a momentous year for a really landmark piece of legislation. And throughout our work at First Alaskans Institute, beginning with our summer internship program, we really have been creating ways to uplift reflections of different aspects of INCSA throughout our work. And one of the things that has been elevated from our trustees as an important moment to take right now is to recognize the unseen heroes of INCSA. You know, there are some of the folks that we know, we often see them in the photographs and in the news stories, or even, you know, different videos or documentaries about them. But there are so many people who were pulling in this canoe with us. And so with that, I'd like to invite Iriaruk back to our screen to reflect on some of the unseen heroes of INCSA.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And it's hard to believe it's been 50 years since this legislation was passed by Congress. And this evening I was supposed to be assisted by a couple of our directors, Sam and Oliver, who unfortunately couldn't join us tonight. So I'm not going to try to cover all of the story, but I would like to make a few points. As you know, it took over 100 years before the Congress wrestled with and came up with a legislation to resolve our ownership claims. And it's a very, very long and in some ways a thrilling story, because when it came to a head in the mid 60s, we were literally on the verge of losing total control of our homelands as a consequence of the Statehood Act. And it was amazing to see our people from literally all walks of life and from all parts of Alaska come together, because we all sensed and knew that this was our last shot at trying to get confirmation to our lands. And it was a long shot in that our country had spent over 200 years taking indigenous lands and only compensating them in pennies an acre and no land whatsoever. That was what your ancestors, your relatives were facing in the mid 60s. And today, in my course, it was the last weekend of classes, a dozen hours. I had learned of a story that I had not fully appreciated. And I had a description of that incident, and I wanted to relay it because it's an example of people who took a stand and almost nobody remembers. And we had blanketed Alaska with about 150%, of the claims, by the mid 60s, starting with Arctic Slope in January of 66, and then our region that summer, and then it spread throughout Alaska. And then we formed the AFN in October of 1966 as the spear point for pursuing a settlement. And this whole situation came to a crisis as a consequence of the discovery of oil in 1968. The country wanted the oil. Alaska absolutely desperately needed it because it may well have failed as a state without some revenue from somewhere. And it turns out Prudhoe Bay was it. But we were fortunate to have a friend in Stuart Udall, the secretary, who refused to process state selections under the Statehood Act. And the state was absolutely furious. And we pressed hard for that freeze because we needed leverage to get Congress to act. In any case, the oil industry, they needed to have an outlet for that oil, and they wanted to build a pipeline from Prudhoe Bay all the way to the Gulf of Alaska. And they were well on their way to trying to do that. And of the villages of Stevens Village and Rampart and a couple of others, decided to protest this pipeline that was going to go right through their historic trapping and hunting areas and fishing areas. They engaged a young legal services lawyer by the name of David Wolf, who was just barely out of law school. They took affidavits supported by Tim Wallace and Ruby John. They went to the villages and they outlined their trap lines, their hunting areas, their berry picking areas, their fishing areas. And they took that information to Washington, D.C., to a federal judge named Judge Hart, who, as it turns out, was a racist. But to cover that, he liked to do positive things for brown people. And they used the Indian Reorganization Act as a vehicle, but there was actually no reservation per se. And so Arnold and Porter did pro bono work, working with legal services, and they were able to secure an injunction against the pipeline that helped legitimize our claims, because many people didn't believe that we had substantive claims. And the judge did that and absolutely stunned the state, stunned the oil industry, and gave more credibility, to our claims. And that was on like April Fool's Day of 1970. And of course, a year later, the Congress passed the legislation. So many people forget that those hunters and trappers up there took a stand, and nobody remembers who they are. And nobody remembers David Wolf's role, who's still around now. He's about 80. But I just learned that story, and I just thought I wanted to tell that. That's just one story. But there are many heroes in every part of Alaska, because wherever our people were, someone stood up and said, "No, you can't take this land," and they claimed it. And I'm thinking of people that hardly anybody remembers. I mean, Etuk was key, Charlie Everson and Barrow, Eben Hobson, Walter Namaroak, Sam Tullock, people like that that stood up when they needed to. I'm thinking about Jerome Trigg in the Nome area. I'm thinking about Ray Christensen in the Bethel area. Philip Guy was an absolute great community. We had no telephones. All we had was the post office, and we had no communications media. I mean, Emil Nadi was barely feeding his family as head of AFN. AFN was an unwieldy organization, and initially we had no lawyers. We had no talking points. We had no PR experience. We didn't know anything about the political process, but people stood up, and from all parts of Alaska. And I would like to say that Wally Hickel was governor starting in '67. He was the first one to face the whole question of land claims and the land freeze. And of course, he and his people fought it furiously. But in the end, he was pragmatic, and people don't remember that he was the first governor to actually support the idea of 40 million acres, which was more than four times what our friend, the Secretary of Interior, was willing to support. And not only that, he was willing to support the notion of state participation in payment through what ended up being the 2% overriding royalty, that is $500 million. And he did that before he went to Washington to become secretary. And so we fought tooth and tongue with him over the land freeze, but in the end, it turned out that he was helpful in convincing Nixon to support, the legislation. And without Nixon, of course, it wouldn't have happened. It simply wouldn't have happened. And another person that nobody remembers is a Nalorme, a lawyer by the name of Edgar Paul Boyko. Edgar Paul Boyko was a special consultant to Wally Hickel on land claims. He was kind of flamboyant, very voluble, talkative guy. But he had been a lawyer in Interior, and he didn't like their bureaucratic ways. But he also helped convince Wally to support moving forward with legislation, because if the state wasn't on board, there was no bill. And also, it was this land claims task force that Wally agreed to form along with the AFN. It was, in fact, the entire AFN board with a small drafting committee that consisted of Johnny Sackett, bless his soul, John Burbridge, Joey Pixon, and myself as the executive committee. We came up with ideas that we recommended to the governor and to the state that in reality, I think, moved the state forward and actually emerged in the bill, 2 years later. So that little task force is virtually little known, but it came up with the idea of the corporation as a vehicle, without the notion of BIA oversight over those lands. And it was, in fact, kind of a price we had to pay to get the land, because it was always the land that we were after, because our people needed space to carry out their identity and their culture. And that connection to the land was very, very strong. And you'll see it. People like Andrew Isaac, absolutely firm about the notion that they weren't interested in money, they were interested in the land. And so we in fact, with people like Andrew Isaac and others, helped convince the United States to do something totally unusual, and that is to convey fee simple title to Alaska Native people with about $1 billion, which at that point was the way beyond the highest per capita payment ever made for Indian lands. And when Udall came up with his number, it was only $180 million. Our friend Stuart Udall, who kept the land freeze, he recommended the same amount that the Senecas got for the Kinzua Dam when their land was taken for the Kinzua Dam, and that was $3,000 per Indian. And so you see where we had to go. I mean, we had to go from a mere $180 million to almost $1 billion. And we also went from the land, which was somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 to 7 million acres. We pushed that up to 40. It ended up being 44. And so it wasn't all of Alaska that we had once owned. And we all knew when the bill was passed that we would probably never be able to put together the forces that would enable us to get a bill through. And so when you look at the videos of the night that Nixon signed the legislation at APU, there was no celebration. In spite of all that work that everybody did between 1966 and 1971, there was no celebration because we knew what we were giving up. We knew what we were giving up, and it wasn't easy. But we also knew that we had an alignment of forces that we'd never put together again. We had a president who only knew one Indian. This is the story at Whittier College. Chief Newman, they called him, Wallace Newman, who Nixon revered next to his father because he taught Nixon to get up and fight when he got beat down. And the story is that when he became president, he calls Newman and says, if you ever need anything, call. And Wallace Newman says, just take care of the Indians. And by gosh, Nixon, without him, we would never have gotten the bill through. But there are many, many players. I mean, Mike Gravel, if Ernest Greening had won re-election, we would have been in trouble. Sad to say, I love the man, but when it came to native land, he was never there as territorial governor. He was incensed with the creation of the 1.5 million acre Venati Reservation in the territorial days. And he and Bob Atwood were hand in glove, totally opposed to any lands going to Native people. And if he'd gotten reelected, the Federal Field Committee report that Joe Fitzgerald and all our friends made, that is under contract to Senator Jackson, there would have been no Native institution at all left if their ideas had come into the legislation, because they were going to create a presidential board. All the natives would have been shareholders. All the money and land. We saw our villages as racial enclaves, and they were in reality trying to use the settlement to erase Native identity. And we had to fight that idea. And so it was battle all the way. We were successful in having our own people administer the land and funds through the regional corporations and through the village corporations. We had to fight for that. And so it is almost a miracle, really, that this piece of legislation emerged. And yes, it was full of flaws, but for the entire sad history of Indian lands takings, this was the best settlement ever that came out of the Congress under great odds. And so there are many heroes, people who stepped up to help provide funding when we needed to fly to DC. There were people who stood up, even in my region, who were willing to join the initial board of Northwest Alaska Native Association to file the 30 million acre claim. They may have faded from the scene, but they were there when we needed them. And Robert Newland, John Schaefer, Percy Pollock Jr., John Nelson Jr., Margaret Russell, Ernest Norton, Harvey Vestal. I mean, they stood up when we needed them. And I just wanted to point that out, that there are people in each of your regions that should be remembered. And hopefully when we need to develop our own historians, because after 10 years of teaching at the university, I realize how unique our perspective is on history. It is totally different than the ordinary historians. And it's a story that needs to be told literally in every part of Alaska. Kuyan, thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Igiaruk. Such a wealth of knowledge of our history always. For sharing with all of us. You were really uplifting the fact that when our Native peoples are connected to our lands, we thrive and so do our lands. And that connection that we have that is perpetual. Alaska is a Native place. It always has been, and it always will be, is one that is worth fighting for. And for you and for everyone that you named, for all that you've done to help stand in this fight with our people for our right to be who we are. And there are so many more. We know there are so many others, like Igiaruk was just saying, within all of our regions who really played an important role in helping to make this landmark legislation become a reality. I wanted to uplift something that Another of our trustees shared earlier, Iqaluk Fish, was talking about how really at the heart of this event, the Howard Rock and Ted Stevens Smokehouse Gala is an opportunity to uplift our people thriving today. And so with that, we want to bring in the legacies of Howard Rock and Ted Stevens. It really has been our honor over the last 10 years to uplift the powerful leadership of these important leaders who really did work not only so hard for our Native community, but really did help shape the landscape of Native policy. And so we have a short video we'd like to share to speak a little to their legacies of Howard Rock and Ted Stevens.
So Howard Rock as a leader, as an Alaska Native leader, did so many things. I mean, I could go on and on for days about his accomplishments, but one of the things that he did at a really critical time in our history was to tell our story from our perspective.
The little newspaper, the Thunder Times, didn't have a very large circulation, maybe 3,500, but it went to all the politicians and all the administrators and key people. And it also was a medium of communication for us around the state at the time, because we didn't have television, we didn't have computers. And so the Mail and the Thunder Times was it. And Howard was a unifier. He wasn't a flag waver. He used reason. So he was a key person when we needed a medium for communication.
Many of the programs that exist in our communities were funded by Ted Stevens, by Senator Stevens, or Uncle Ted as everybody calls him. Whether it's the Alaska Tribal Health Compact or a host of other programs, the Denali Commission, so many other things. He provided the resources that folks needed to have their dreams and their hopes be achieved.
Yeah, we worked together off and on for, over 50 years, because we served in the State House together. Then he got appointed to the U.S. Senate when Senator Bartlett died, and so we began to interact with him there. And at first, I was a little leery about him because he was appointed by Wally Hickel, with whom we were battling tooth and tongue over the land freeze. But in the end, it all sort of came together. I mean, you can't go anywhere in Alaska without finding something that Ted Stevens did. And I think we will always remember him for the work that he has done.
Yeah, it really is an honor to uplift those really powerful leaders in our Smokehouse Gala Awards. It's so fitting to be able to uplift their legacies of leadership and advocacy on behalf of Native peoples in really honoring and celebrating the advocacy of other Alaska Native leaders and our friends. And so that brings us to one of our favorite parts of the evening. There are so many, but we are so excited to get to the point of our evening where we get to uplift our Smokehouse Gala awardees. Our first awardee is going to be our Ted Stevens Friend of First Alaskans awardee, Dr. Herb Schroeder. So the Friends of First Alaskans Ted Stevens Award is given to a person that has shown through their support of Native issues and partnership with our common cause that they are friends of the Alaska Native community. This year, it's our distinct honor to recognize Herb with this award. We have a brief video that we'd like to show, just uplifting, bringing his voice into our space before we honor him with the voices of our community as well.
Together we have dared mighty things and shown that impossible is just a word that's used by people who find it easier to live with the status quo rather than explore the power they have to change it. Impossible is not a fact. Impossible is an opinion. It's a dare. It's potential. And as ANSEP demonstrates, impossible is temporary. And we have some ANSEP students in the room tonight. Let's hear it from the ANSEP students. Yeah. And every ANSEP student knows that they can work hard and become anything that they want to be. There's more than 1,500 balloons in the room, and more than 1,500 pieces of boy and girl confetti on the tables. And there's one of each to represent every single ANSEP student across the state. Students currently in the ANSEP pipeline from 6th grade to the PhD. That's more people than are in this room right now. You have to think about that. Those are kids that we're working with. And every ANSEP student, every strategic partner, every parent, every volunteer, every advocate, every funder owns a part of the education transformation that's taking place. All of you have made ANSEP the most successful and cost-effective model in the nation. On behalf of my students and staff, thank you for your continued hard work and support, and thank you to everyone for coming tonight.
What's impressed to me most about Herb was his commitment to the students, his commitment to the community, and his passion for the industry.
Dr. Herb Schroeder started the Alaska Native Science and Engineering program, ANSEP.
You know, everybody in the state knows what ANSEP is now. And ANSEP, no doubt, has put us in a good spot to be leaders.
His education and engineering program have produced a significant number of leaders across the state.
Graduated through the ANSEP program with my electrical engineering degree. And that important trait that I learned from Herb around taking initiative was something that has served me well through my entire career.
I think that Herb exemplifies what it means to be an ally who uses his expertise within his given field to identify ways that Alaska Native peoples are being left behind or left out, and utilizing his expertise in this case in the field of engineering and academia in order to make sure that space is made for Alaska Native peoples to be equitably represented within the field.
I wouldn't be where I'm at today without Dr. Herb Schroeder's support and help through ANSEP. ANSEP actually helped me to go on and get my PhD degree from Purdue University. And now I'm the first Alaska Native with a doctorate in engineering education in the world. And it's with his support that I was able to do that.
What's really been great to see is that many of the students that had been in the program early on are now leading the program.
I am thankful for your leadership, your commitment, your foresight, and the good work that you put in over the years at ANSEP. So, award well earned. Congratulations. Go Sheesh.
So thanks, Herb. I really appreciate you and what you've done for the Alaska Natives of not only my family, but my cousins and extended family, and just been a real positive impact for me. So thank you so much for that, Herb.
Congratulations to Dr. Herb Schroeder on behalf of my family, my community, and myself, and Base.
On behalf of the First Alaskans Institute Board of Trustees and staff, we would like to congratulate Dr. Herb Schroeder on receiving the Friends of First Alaskans Ted Stevens Award.
Thank you. Thank you to the FAI board, Professor Willie Hensley, Liz, my students who inspire me every day, and my wife, Lynn Lizelle, who's an endless source of love and support. Nearly 30 years ago, Willie Byron, Roy Hundorf, Diane Kaplan, and the Rasmussen Foundation took me under their wing, and they helped me clarify a vision for ANSEP. Today, we start working with kids in kindergarten, and we work with them every single year, all the way through to the PhD. Thousands of students from more than 100 communities. And it's happening because there's more than 70 partner organizations, and we're doing it all together. The university, the ANCs, oil and gas industry, federal and state agencies, school districts, philanthropic organizations, individual donors. In our high school acceleration academy, students are going from 8th grade to a baccalaureate degree in 5 years. Yes, 8th grade to a baccalaureate degree in 5 years, earning degrees that lead to careers in conservation and health sciences, engineering, finance, and management. We have academies right now in Bethel, in Matsu and Anchorage. They're full-time academies all during the school year. We're going to start one in Kotzebue in the fall of 2022. And our goal is to have an acceleration academy available for students in every hub community where there's a university campus. One by one, we're standing up, and together we're transforming education. Bobby Kennedy said, each time a person stands up for an ideal, it sends forth a ripple of hope. And crossing each other from millions of different centers of energy and daring, these ripples build a current which can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance, unquote. Please join us, stand up, send forth your ripple of hope, and together we will transform education forever so that every one of our children has access to a life of unlimited possibilities. Thank you. I'm so honored to be able to have this award from First Alaskans.
Yanukbuk Herb, we're very honored. We will be getting your award to you, beautifully made by Drew Michael. It has special embellishments to mark that this is our 10th anniversary of the Smokehouse Gala Award. So well earned. I'd love to invite our trustees on to offer a word of congratulations or a wave to you so you can see their beautiful faces.
Thank you.
All right. Beautiful. Kuyanukbuk, as you see, you join a distinguished list of incredible leaders who really have stood beside the Alaska Native community. Kuyanukbuk so much. It's so good that you were here with us.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Kuyanukbuk. At this time, we are excited to uplift our next awardee. At this time, we want to recognize our First Alaskans Institute Young Native Leader awardee, Nicole Borromeo. The First Alaskans Institute Young Native Leader Award is given to a young leader who's shown through dedication that they are working to help Native peoples and our community with significant and profound purpose. This year, it's our distinct honor to recognize Nicole with this award, and we think you'll agree with us exactly why she got this award when you see this brief clip.
These voting district pairings were proposed by board member Bethany Markham.
I was focused on the important socioeconomic connections between our military neighbors, Eagle River and Muldoon.
But not all agreed. 2 board members were opposed to the plan, and there were claims of political gerrymandering.
There is no populated area, not even a military gate, that connects districts 24 and 23. There was limited, almost no debate or justification really for drawing these Senate districts this way on the record. And I apologize to Alaskans for that.
And I would have called this out had it been the Democrats doing it.
Do you want to call
just so you know, I want that also for the record.
Okay.
It's not that I'm opposed to any particular political party. I was looking at this from a stateswoman's perspective.
In the end, the new redistricting plan was passed on a vote of 3-2.
This are the signatures of the individuals on the board that have approved the proclamation, and you've made it quite clear that you disagree, that you don't want your signatures on this document.
Hold on a second. I'm not going to be cut out of the Alaska redistricting process at the last minute. I want the fact that I'm not signing it to speak volumes. Do not take my name off of that page.
The final proclamation has been signed by all 5 members.
Woohoo! Need that fire emoji. I can speak for many of us that we were like, yes, when we watched that clip. And total bonus that our awardee for our Howard Rock Alaska Native Leader last year during our Smokehouse Gala, Melanie Banky, was featured in that video as well. She also served alongside Nicole and really fought for not only our Alaska Native people, but all Alaskans on the redistricting board. So we have community members who also were incredibly eager to uplift Nicole. And so we want to queue up that video so you can hear their voices as well.
When I think of all the amazing women in leadership I've had the privilege and joy of working with and befriending throughout my career, one woman stands out. Nicole Baramio leads with integrity, a passion for helping her community, and a clarity of purpose.
When we need someone to step in to ensure that our rights as Alaska Native people are protected, we can always count on Nicole to be there. We're so thankful for Nicole's advocacy on a number of fronts, including child welfare, voting rights, and infrastructure and business development.
She's one of those leaders that embodies not only being grounded in her culture, but also understanding the importance of ensuring our people's voices are heard.
Because of the homework that you did and the research that you did and the memo that you put forward, you single-handedly, with a little bit of help from other folks, were responsible for bringing in $229 million into the state for our Alaska Native tribes to help battle this pandemic and support our villages and our tribes and our tribal members.
When I was working on the governor's tribal compacting with Commissioner Val Davidson, and Nicole had stepped in towards the end as the mediator between the tribes and the state of Alaska. And she just owned that space. She just, no hesitation. She had the ability to just pull us together, get the compact through, and I was so thankful for her energy in that space.
Nicole's testimony to Congress, our Congressional Committee on Voting Rights for Alaska Native people, was direct and effective and crisp. It was good.
If you've been following her most recently with the redistricting work, she is a very strong advocate for Alaska Natives and our issues.
She fought for a true, fair, and just map for all Alaskans. And she called out the injustice on behalf of all Alaskans, not just Alaska Native people.
And to watch the fire she brought in those spaces, man, I could just watch her go for days.
She is just on top of her game right now. And that type of role model is something that I will always step up to help celebrate, to encourage.
And I just want to say, thank you so very much, Nicole, for all that you do.
Thank you for standing tall for Alaskans.
You are a rock star, Nicole, and so deserving of recognition. Congratulations, my friend.
On behalf of the First Alaskans Institute Board of Trustees and staff, we offer our congratulations to Nicole Baramio for being the recipient of the First Alaskans Institute Young Native Leader Award. At this time, I'd love to invite you, Nicole, to accept your award. When you return back to Alaska, when you get here, you have a beautiful Oscar Coagley statue waiting for you.
Oh, mahalo, Ayo, and thank you to everyone for this recognition at First Alaskans, the trustees, and the professional staff as well. Aloha from Hawaii Ne. I'm over in my husband's homeland right now celebrating here in spirit with you. And I just want to thank everyone who has had big or little pieces of helping me become the person that I am today. And this Young Alaska Native Leader Award is so deeply appreciated by me. I was thinking earlier about my redistricting road, and one of the first articles that came out when I was appointed by Representative Bryce Edgman, who was the Speaker of the House at the time, was that I was a young radical. There was more of that headline too, but I always thought that's kind of funny, young radical. And I didn't see myself as being a radical, but I tell you what, after this process, yes, I am radically committed to improving the life outcomes of Alaska Native people from a cultural, social, economic, and political standpoint. Melanie and I have been in the redistricting boardroom for the past 3 months now, and really over 15 months, trying to draw fair, just maps for the state for the next 10 years. We succeeded when it came to the House. We were on track for the Senate. Things got very, very waylaid the last couple of days. But we are also excited to see Alaska Native people and other Alaskans step into these spaces now over the next decade, and to really own them, and to make our state the vision that we know it can be.
Mahalo. Kulianakbok Nicole. I think it was Melanie who said, when Native people are at the decision-making table, the result will be superior because of it. And so I'd love to invite our trustees to come on screen and offer your congratulations to Nicole, your wave. Mwah. Yay! Kulianakbok. We're so proud of you and thankful for your advocacy, Nicole. At this time, we're excited to uplift our third and final awardee for the evening, the recipient of our Howard Rock Alaska Native Leader Award, and that is going to Rosita Whirl, Dr. Rosita Whirl. The Howard Rock Alaska Native Leader Award goes to a person who has shown through their quality of character and effort to be a leader of distinct caliber because they put their community and people before themselves. This year, we are very honored to recognize the dedication and life's work of Dr. Rosita Whirl. So we have a brief clip that we would love to share with you that comes from a presentation during our Elders and Youth Conference. And then we have another video as well to share of community members who also wanted to uplift Rosita.
The question that must be posed and answered: could the exclusion of Alaska Natives who are less than the 1/4 Native blood quantum from enrollment into Native corporations and from hunting marine mammals ultimately lead to our cultural extinction? From my perspective, the application of blood quantum criteria to determine Native identity, eligibility, or membership in Native corporations or entities could lead to a path of ultimate extinction of a tribe or a cultural group. In the long term, in my humble opinion, I would have to answer yes. In closing, I want to congratulate all of our people who fought for the Alaska Native Land Claims Act. The Alaska Native Land Claims Act was the largest Aboriginal land claim settlement in the country. It also set us on a very different path from our tribes in the lower 48, but it also gave us full control and ownership of our land. Our lands cannot be taken by the Bureau of Indian Affairs or leased to non-natives as they historically, the BIA, were able to do to reservation lands.
Rosita's background is very significant in the culture of Southeast Alaska. She's got a doctorate, and she's born and raised in Juneau, and very well connected and spent a lot of time developing education and spending money of the Alaska or See Alaska's foundation.
Her actions has demonstrated what a person can do when they set their heart and their mind to it. Her body of work that she's done is amazing.
I remember her traveling to Akachuk to record when Akachuk Native community dissolved their second-class city, and they just wanted to have one government within their community. And she was there recording that, and we really appreciate her capturing those critical moments in our history.
Rosita has really exemplified something that we believe as an operating truth at First Alaskans Institute, and that is that Alaska Natives know best what's best for Alaska Natives.
Rosita has worked tirelessly for all these years, many years, focusing on culture and heritage, renewing, reviving, and helping us all to do that. And I don't think she knows that she is my role model for what I try to do every day at the Siri Foundation.
One of her great visions was to ensure that our footprint was once again reestablished in Juneau, and she's done that.
Our leadership had the foresight to establish the Alaska Heritage Foundation in 1980. And under Rosita's leadership, this capital city is becoming an Indigenous arts capital. So congratulations, Rosita. I love you. We love you. We know we're committed to doing right for our people, for the land, for the next many generations, and we wouldn't be where we are without your commitment and your work.
I just really appreciate recognition that she really deserves.
Gunashish, ho ho to her for the many years of dedication and love shown for her people.
Congratulations, Kahani, Dr. Worrell. This award is so deserved of the work that you have put forward and your years of service to our communities and to our people.
On behalf of the First Alaskans Institute Board of Trustees and staff, we offer our congratulations to Kahani, Dr. Rosita Worrell, for receiving the Howard Rock Alaska Native Leader Award. At this time, we'd love to invite Dr. Worrell to the screen to accept your award. Good to see you, Dr. Worrell.
Gunashish Anyat Kusani, most noble people, most honorable Alaska Native people, thank you for this award. I am humbled and I am honored to accept this award, following in the footsteps of a great man who gave so much to Alaska, who gave so much to Alaska Natives and allowed us to have that settlement, that largest land claim settlement that so many of our noble leaders led. They were fighting the United States government and they won. They won the right for us to get our land back. Maybe we didn't get all of it back, but in our hearts, it's still our land. And I thank those great leaders. In Southeast Alaska, we have a belief and a ceremony in which we call upon the spirits of those who have gone before us to return and to celebrate with us. It is called the Gankasiki, the fire bowl ceremony. We put food in a bowl and then call the names of those who will join us. We then later burn the food to transfer it to the spirit world. Today, I wanted to call the names of significant individuals who have gone before us. They are individuals who made great contributions to our Native society, most of whom I was privileged to know as friends and colleagues. I think it is fitting that they are invited here to celebrate and commemorate the passage of the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act nearly 50 years ago. Since I am an eagle, I will call upon the ravens to hold the bowl and to repeat the names that are called, and their spirits will be joining with us. And now my eagle, my raven friends, if they will go ahead and do this. This is the fire bowl ceremony.
Etuk.
Etuk.
Evan Hobson.
Evan Hobson.
Jake Adams.
Jake Adams.
Joe Upixon.
Joe Upixon.
Morris Thompson.
Morris Thompson.
Johnny Sackett.
Johnny Sackett.
Don Wright.
Don Wright.
Ralph Perdue.
Ralph Perdue.
Al Adams.
Al Adams.
Frank Ferguson.
Frank Ferguson.
General John Schaefer.
General John Schaefer.
Ruby Tansey.
Ruby Tansey.
John Borbridge.
John Borbridge.
Byron Malott.
Byron Malott.
Clarence Jackson.
Clarence Jackson.
Walter Sobolov.
Walter Sobolov.
Albert Kukesh.
Albert Kukesh.
So those are our friends who helped us in many ways. And tonight, I know that their spirits are here to stand beside me, to help me, and to always to strengthen our people. Thank you for this wonderful award. Again, I am deeply humbled and honored. Ganashish.
Ganashish. Sheesh. Kliyanakbak. Beautiful. That was powerful. And how very connected to who we are to uplift others in accepting your award. Knashchish. Kliyanakbak to our trustees coming on and offering our congratulations as well, Dr. Whirl. Kliyanakbak for your advocacy and all you've done and continue to do for us. Our beautiful Oscar Coagli Award, as we love to call it, we'll be sending it to you. It does. This is the last year that we'll be using these awards. Starting the next decade, beginning with next year, we're going to have a different form for our awardees. And so I wanted to uplift to each of our awardees that inscribed on this beautiful part of the statue is a quote from someone that we just absolutely love. That quote that helps center us in the right way. And it says, "When you lead with love, you will never stand alone. When you lead with love, you will never stand alone." Annie Toktuk David. So just so incredibly fitting for all three of you. We know that you center love of our Native people and all that you do, and really just want to uplift you and say Kliyanakbak so much for your advocacy, for all that you do and putting your life energy into uplifting Native people. Kliyanakbak, absolutely beautiful. You know, to pull together not only an event like this live stream, our finale, but all of the pieces and the parts to uplift the beauty of our ways of life. It really takes so many helping hands alongside us, and we want to make sure that we offer our gratitude to all who make not only this, but also the work of First Alaskans Institute possible. I'd love to invite my sister Shulukanatchnichkak to introduce yourself and also to offer on our behalf gratitude.
Kliyanakbak ayu. Kamai wi Shulukanatchnichkak up to Hutna Melissa Martin. FAI's Indigenous Operations and Innovations Director. I'm so happy to be here with all of you this evening and to be able to pay gratitude to all of our amazing artists, donors, sponsors, supporters, everybody that came out and showed love throughout the entire month of November, Native Heritage Month, and our 10th annual Smokehouse Gala. We couldn't do it without the love of our community, and we are so impressed with the work of our artists and your resilience and your creativity that you bring to the gala. We also had a couple of contests going on, and it was so fun to watch everyone engage and take part in it. We had some amazing prizes and some wonderful winners. I just want to highlight very briefly one of those contests, the What You Would Have Worn. We all know when we go to the in-person gala, we get to see some amazing Native regalia and just beautiful indigeneity walk the floor. So we recreated that in a virtual space. I think the part I love about those pictures the most is all of the smiles. So Kulyana Shinak Awaata to everybody who participated and supported the gala for us this year. Kasaitla.
Hi, Ganeshchi, Shilukanch Kanishkak. I love seeing everybody in their beautiful regalia. I can't wait to be in this space in person with everyone. Hello, Kasaitla, Yechat Duwasak, Amanda Brumner, Sayich City. Llenget aya, Aknachet City, Tequidi ayachet, Yaukdat Dachaya, Gunachu Kwan ayachet, Denaina Ani, Yechatiati, Yidadach, First Alaskans Institute, Achyechinei, Indigenous Advancement Director, Chet City. Yikayawe Yat Achwashkeni Yachana, Ganeshchish. Hello, everyone. My name is Kasai Cha. It means Mother of Names. I also go by Amanda Bremner. I am Shinget, Eagle of the Tequedi Brown Bear Clan, originally from Yakutat. And my people are the people of Dry Bay. I'm currently zooming in from Denaina Ani here in Anchorage, where my family recently relocated. We now live and work and play and learn the lands of the Denaina people. It's so wonderful to see everyone and be in this space this evening with our staff and trustees and our honored awardees and all of our viewers out there on FAI TV. At this time, we'd also like to give a special thanks, Ganeshchish, to our Ways of Life in Action artists. So throughout this week, we were able to share 6 videos with you. Our artists included Amy Topcock, Jessica Denny's, Demi Maheras, Charlie Pardue, Martha Malat, and our very own Sven Hawkinson Jr. We're so thankful to these folks, not only for allowing us to share their videos, we're also thankful to them for sharing a little bit of themselves with us. This work is so important. Our artists aren't just our artists, right? Our artists are also our culture bearers. Our artists are protecting our ways of life, which is such important work. And the intention of our Ways of Life in Action video series was to uplift our Alaska Native artists who are taking the time to do just that, to live and love their way of life, and who are sharing and pouring their knowledge into the rest of us, especially our youth. Many of the artists who were featured in the video series were also instructors in this year's Elders and Youth Conference. We're so thankful to everyone who's able to volunteer their time and be part of the conference each year and lead our Living and Loving Our Way of Life workshops. An extra big thanks to all of the artists who also contributed to our silent auction. Things got really intense there for a while. There's so much amazingness out there, and congrats to all of the winners. I can't wait to see. And if you missed the Our Ways of Life in Action video series, they are on our website, or not our website, They are on our Facebook page on FAI TV, so you can go back and check out each of those videos. Yeah, we have, this is my first gala in this virtual space, and I'm just so blown away and humbled and honored to be here and just be so inspired by all the amazingness that's happening, and to see so many folks from our state and even in other places around the world just doing so many amazing things to lift us up and lift up our communities. And there's this amazing outpouring of love and support that's happening, and not just from artists, but a beautiful outpouring of support from so many folks across our communities. And Laganai, speaking of support, I think you have something to share with us.
My heart is in my throat. Oh my goodness. To Herb, to Nicole, to Kahani, Ganeshchish, Tlain Ganeshchish, Jahawa, so much. It's one thing to do the work, and we know that you don't do this work for accolades. We know you do this work because it's the right work to do, to take care of our people and to stand beside one another and to hold one another up, and to know that sometimes you're in places that are not friendly and are not caring and are not kind, and you put your armor on, the armor of love, and that's what you lead with. And that's what these awards are about. As Ayu shared earlier, on the award is a quote by Nucharaluk, Valerie Davidson's Amau, her grandmother actually, and Uiruchak as well, Annie David. And that quote resonates so much for the three of you. When you lead with love, you never stand alone. And that's what it takes from all of us to remember, is that we are never alone when we're working on behalf of our people, when we're lifting other people up. We are not alone. Our ancestors are here beside us. Our ancestors are here within us. And that's what that quote speaks to. And I want to recognize Nucharaluk's family, because when we started this award series with these statuettes made by the artist Drew Michael, a Yupik artist, does incredible work, and Ganeshchish to him for doing this with us. And we asked if we could use that quote on the award. The answer was, of course, yes. So just want to thank the family for that as well. There have been many people who have touched the gala and the creation of an indigenized space to celebrate and uplift the contributions of Alaska Native peoples and our friends. Many people who you may not ever see, either virtually or even when we actually are in person at the gala, where there's usually over 500 people in a giant room. And you're lucky if you even get to talk and meet and visit with a third of them, because it's so busy and packed and fun, and just the atmosphere is so vibrant. And that atmosphere is vibrant because of the love that people pour into creating the space. One of our Native values that we're taught and that we have to put in practice on a daily basis when we're growing up is to not work on things when you feel bum, especially working on our foods. That you can't work on our foods when you're feeling, kind of stink inside, or bitter, or angry, or upset, or pouty, or irritable. All of those things, we all have those moments when we're not feeling our best. But one of our teachings is that we don't work on things that we love when we're in that mood or in that headspace, because we wouldn't want to serve that to our loved ones. And we wouldn't want to disrespect the animals who give their lives to nourish us. And And we wouldn't want to disrespect the providers who were able to harvest and share it. And also practically, when you're upset and you're working on stuff, and especially when you're working with sharp knives or ulawaks, then you're going to cut yourself. You're going to trip over things. So really practical and also very soulful. And that's what that means. It means that you put so much love into what you're working on. And the result is that people around you feel it, and they feel that love, and then they give it back. And we have been the recipients of so much love hosting this gala from one of the biggest hearts out there. Norma Jean Dunn has been our super volunteer for almost the entirety of the Smokehouse Gala. Since almost its inception, she has been beside us, hustling for donations, reaching out to artists and others to have them donate to our live and our silent auction, and just such a bundle of joy to be with. And we wanted to thank her tonight. Ndoikshin, Hawa, Konishchish Norma Jean, for giving us your love and showing us how to do it right. Norma Jean is married to Francis, so we thank him too for letting her spend so much of her time with us. Norma Jean is Ganhada and Ganahadi, and she has been our super volunteer in more ways than just the hustle that she does for us. She's also all of our aunties. I've known her since I was a little girl, and she was the one that whipped everyone into shape when things needed to get done, and she still offers that to us today. So Norma Jean, I hope you're still up and watching. Just want to send you our love and say Qunashchish Hawa so much for all you do with us. We love you, we cherish you, and we are grateful for you. Are you?
Yeah, I share that gratitude for Norma Jean. What an incredible gift for our community. Kuyanak Bakkunoshish for all you've done and do for us, Norma Jean. We love you so much. It's almost unbelievable that we've already come to the closing of our Smokehouse Gala. We've gone on quite a journey together, really uplifting the complexity of what it means to be Alaska Native people who love who we are. So as we come to a close, we want to close out our time together in the best possible way by uplifting our beautiful Native people through song and dance. So it's my honor to introduce to you one of our team members here at First Alaskans Institute, Ogegagami. She serves as our Ikayuk. She is going to be with her family that has formed the Sivukak of Anchorage Dance Group, close us out in a really good way. So I invite you to introduce yourself and your song, and Kliyanakbak Igamsi for closing us out in a really good way. We love you.
Igamsi Kanahalik. Hi everyone. Wanga yupigistin atka ugugagami. Nang shegutenka sibu kamang bingut. Ramkenka avatmi. My Yupik name is Ugugagami. My family on my mom's side comes from Sivukak, Gamble on St. Lawrence Island. And I am here with my husband, Taylor Hamilton, who will be drumming for me while I dance for First Alaskans Institute. And I'm so excited and honored to get to perform for the Howard Rock and Ted Stevens Smokehouse Gala today. I'll let Taylor introduce himself.
My name is Taylor Hamilton. My mom's from Dillingham, and her parents are from Shagaluk and Clark's Point. And we're going to be doing a song here, very popular. A lot of people know it. It's titled Bearing Land Bridge. It was composed by Awalinga, and his English name was Timothy Gallagherkin. the next and final song we'll do for you, it is titled Senachti, and it's a trade song that comes from our relatives over in Russia. So we're doing this song because it's a way to honor the women who take the time to sew our clothing. So it's about 10-year walrus hide. So Senachti.
Beautiful. Igamsi, Klianakbak. My goodness, my heart feels so big just watching you two. I was thinking partner goals. Oh my goodness. Talk about young leaders clearing the path back to who we are. Absolutely beautiful. Klianakbak. I'd love to invite all of our trustees, our staff, and our awardees onto the screen to give love to everyone who's watching, our families, those who are tuning in. Thank you for joining us for the 10th anniversary of the Howard Rock and Ted Stevens Smokehouse Gala. We're looking forward to the next decade celebrating our ways of life and our beautiful peoples and all that we are with all of you. We ask that you please keep yourself safe, keep your families safe, mask up, backs up, do what you need to do to take care of our people so that we can continue being together for the next many decades. We love you. Good night.
Good night. Good night. Thank you.
Take care, everybody.